enjoyed that little intro. That is a new one for us. If you're new to the channel, my name's Luke. I'm the CEO of Sleeping Giant Media and Giant Campus, and we focus on getting relevant traffic to our clients' websites. So if you're on our social channels, please do hang around, check out our additional content. There's loads of ideas to help your business take those either first steps or develop your digital marketing to that next level. So today we're interviewing Paul Johnson from Vistage. He is one of the wisest men that I've ever met. A whole range of topics we're going to be able to cover off with Paul. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Hi guys, and welcome to the Business as Unusual show. It's Wednesday. We are halfway through the week. I hope the week is going okay for you guys. As I said, we've got a fantastic guest with Paul Johnson from Vistage. So if you've got questions for Paul or for myself, please do put them in the chat. As ever, do check out LinkedIn as well. We're putting out loads of content, so you can find my details scrolling along the bottom of the screen right here. So let's introduce Paul. Paul, can you see and hear me okay?
I can, Luke. Good to see you.
Likewise, yeah. We're off to a strong start there. There's a new intro, a few more things to kind of press, and it seems to have navigated so far okay. So I'm loving the background. You're very good with your virtual backgrounds right there. Could you give us an introduction to yourself and to Vistage for those people who may not have come across Vistage before?
Yeah, sure. So Luke, I spent 30 odd years in the pharmaceutical industry, beginning in my career, 20 of those as a CEO of a business. Loved what I did, but so I guess 6 years ago, decided I'd had enough of the corporate world and moved out to Kent, which I love, and have spent the last 6 years as a Vistage Chair. What that means is I have the privilege of working with some amazing leaders of small to medium-sized businesses in Kent and Sussex, helping them to grow their businesses faster, but also to have a better work-life balance. And that's a job I just love doing.
Awesome. And you talk about straight away sort of like, work-life balance. And I think Vistage is not just about the business, but it's understanding the importance of the kind of individual, the human as well. And how much does that influence the business? How important is that aspect of Vistage?
Yeah, it was probably the main reason that I actually joined Vistage at the time was that, having spent a number of years in a really full-on corporate environment where there was little time for, the other half of one's life, it really gives you a sense of just how important that is. And I see by working with great leaders in Kent that where they have a better balance of their work versus their life, they can be more successful in a leadership position. And I think that ultimately that's what it's really all about.
Amazing. And obviously, we've seen this kind of firsthand. Paul works with Anne and Masood in our business, and it's been helping to kind of guide us for a long time. So yeah, I mean, for anybody who hasn't come across Vistage or Paul, I would definitely recommend checking out Paul's details, because it's been fantastic to. I think for us, I think it's helped us to try to uncover the unknown unknowns, because we just, as a business, you just simply don't know what you don't know, and I think that's where your insight, the experience, and that group has really kind of helped us as a business. Is that part of that kind of the puzzle that you kind of tried to help those businesses solve?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Luke. One of the biggest challenges, I think, for business leaders is to have clarity on where they're going. And sometimes when you're sat in that lonely chair at the top of a business, it's not always obvious, where you should be going. And sometimes to bounce your ideas off other business leaders can give you different perspectives and ideas that you probably would never have had if you just continue to sit there and think about it yourself. So it's the power of peers, I think.
The power of peers. I love that. Is that a slogan that you use a lot, or is that a new one you just on the spot come up with?
It's one I use from time to time.
I thought you might.
But it resonates with me,
It's a great one. It's a good one. And actually, it brings me nicely. I want to get straight into this. I want to talk straight about motivational quotes, because it is something that there's a lot of cliches out there, and I'm gonna put you to your sort of test your knowledge. This is if you've seen before, we'd had a pirate quiz in the past. This is not related to pirates. This one is related to motivational questions. Okay, motivational quotes that we've uncovered. Okay, so I'm going to just test your knowledge on some of these, if I may. So, can you complete this quote? They are slightly obscure. Producer Alex has put this together. Feel free to play along in chat as well. So that the quote here: "Try not to become a man of success, rather become
a man of value." I think, in its own time. All right.
Oh my gosh. I did not expect you to get that, but look at this. I told you, I said that you were one of the wisest people I've ever come across. Straight up. Did you Google that? Did you Google that?
No, I'm afraid I didn't.
Very impressive. Very impressive start. Right. Let's have a look. Alex, I don't think you made it hard enough. Right, let's move on to the next one. What's the difference between try and triumph? This is...
I don't know.
Just
that one,
take this one literally, Paul. Take this one literally.
Oomph.
A little oomph. Wow. I know. Alex revealed this one to us earlier in our team meeting. I was slightly saddened by Alex's knowledge of that quote, but he does other video content.
That's
So
what I want to know.
yeah, let's have a look at the next one. What are the missing words? When life puts you in tough situations, don't say something me, just say something me, by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. What do we think?
Yeah. So, although he shares my surname, I'm not big on his quotes. So, The Rock. Alex, you're going to have to tell me.
We're going to have to find... Okay, let's have a look. So reveal this one. Don't say why me, just say try me. Oof. Strong. Cliche. Rock. Love that, though. I do like The Rock. I do mainly his role as Maui in Moana, but that's mainly because I've got two girls who are obsessed with that film. So let's have a look. This is an interesting one. I like thinking big. If you're going to be thinking anything, you might as well think big. Now, it's not the best English, which might give you a clue. Which might give you Say again?
Schwarzenegger.
Oh, so it is American political. So you're very close to it there. It is, in fact, this guy, the Trumpster. Oh. Yeah, I don't like thinking big. I like thinking big. If you're going to be thinking anything, you might as well think big. Wise words from the Donald over there. And what are the missing words here? The way to get started is to quit something and begin something else. What is that from Walt Disney?
Oh, he had a lot of good
things. He did, yeah. Because I think you've used Disney as a... There's a really good one that I know that Ants told me, and I think it was from one of your sessions around you can't be off... You can be off target. You can be off task, but never off mission. Is that right?
That's right. So maybe it's the way to get started is to quit thinking and begin doing.
Let's have a look. Talk it. It's very close. I think we'll accept that. That is very, very good. Congratulations, Paul. That is some very, very good knowledge in there. I think out of those quotes, I mean, it can't be Donald. What is there a one that you think is, or is there any other quotes actually? Ignoring those, what are the sort of quotes that you like to sort of use in your Vistage members to motivate them?
Oh, I really like the Einstein one. It's really good, but I think the one that always comes to me is Henry Ford, when he said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
I like it. I thought you were going to go for the Henry Ford quote of, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they'd have said faster horses.
Yeah.
Which I
mean, that's also a great one, but for me, the first one I gave you is just all about mindset.
Yeah.
And I think that for leaders, your mindset is the biggest single issue to your success. And if you adopt the approach of, I'm going to make some mistakes, but I'm going to learn from those mistakes, having a growth mindset is, to me, just such a powerful way of living. Absolutely. As well as running a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, as you know, we've been talking about the restart-up mentality because the focus on that mindset. So we could talk about digital till the cows come home, but if you haven't got the right mindset, is almost irrelevant. The digital activity that you do, you need that kind of that frame of mind to kind of go forward. What have you noticed in terms of leadership? Like, what are the skill sets that you think that have become more important during kind of lockdown isolation that you're seeing that you're having to talk to your groups about? What are the things that they need to develop in terms of leadership skills?
Yeah, well, I think back to those early few days when, when lockdown happened and none of us was ready for it. And so dealing with uncertainty, to my mind, is, one of the things that any leader needs at any time, but probably more so now than ever. But beyond that, I think it's in a sense it's the fundamentals. It's what it's always been, which is first of all, have absolute clarity on where you're going. COVID-19 may have put a temporary sort of stop on some of those activities, but do you really know where you're going? Do you have a vision for where you want to go in the long term? And are you doggedly focused on making that happen? That for me is one of the most important fundamentals that a business leader needs. Then I think it's about communication. Once you know where you're going, communicate the heck out of it. Make sure that everybody knows, everybody in your company has absolute clarity on where they're going and what their own personal role in the firm's success is. Because they know that, we'll all be aligned, and then you can just do amazing things.
Awesome. What are things that, from a personal bit of experience, that I'm finding different, obviously, and to a degree slightly more challenging, is that because of the remote nature of what we do, the sort of Zoom chats or Google Hangouts, whatever, they're quite formal in the sense that, you jump on, you can, there's sometimes a bit of banter, but not everybody. It's normally the few people that are up for just having a bit of a chat in front of the company. And then you go into talk about, the sort of the daily activity that you need to kind of do. But the feedback, you don't get a huge amount of feedback. Normally in a face-to-face environment, you could read those emotions, you can kind of get that. How do you kind of help to deal with that, almost the challenge of that lack of feedback? And also, I guess the other bit is I have to, I rely on the senior team to run their teams effectively, because otherwise the amount of time that you would spend on a Zoom call trying to talk to every single person would take the whole day up. How do you handle that kind of that gap in feedback that you might get?
So I think some of the lack of feedback is in part because this is still a new medium. For obviously, we're all well used to being using this medium in our social lives, but maybe less so for business communications. So I think some of it is just that we're not used to it. But I also think that that's why, probably on a go-forward basis, those people who believe that we'll all work from home and we'll never meet again in the office are probably living a bit of a dream. I think what people really want is flexible working, as opposed to to always work from home. I think, having worked in a world where flexible working was the norm for a number of years, the most powerful situation, I believe, is where there's a mix where you can do your own thing in your own time, but you still have the ability to go in the office when you want to be able to communicate with people. And that's where the richest feedback is always going to be, I think.
Yeah, in the face-to-face scenario event, you mean, when we're kind of able to kind of do that in some format?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Yeah.
And then in terms of, your people, we have to trust our people.
Yeah.
We have to trust them to do the communication. As leaders, we can't be everywhere, and neither should we be. Our goal as leaders is to create the leaders of tomorrow, and the only way that they're going to be able to become the leaders of tomorrow is if we trust them to get out there, give them clarity on what we want to communicate, but let them do the communication in their own style.
Absolutely, yeah, and obviously, again, you've been doing some fantastic work with our senior team and helping them to kind of to take those next steps, which has been kind of massively valuable, particularly given everything that's going on at the moment. Because, I'm so pleased with how they've responded, how they've reacted, and that trust that we have for them to kind of to deliver that. And I'm trying to think back to sort of 4 or 5 years ago, pre our EOS, we talked about entrepreneurial operating system, and the systems and structures that we've put in place. I couldn't imagine going through this scenario without some of those bits in place, because it would have been twice, three times, four times harder to try to communicate and get the team kind of doing what they needed to do. So it's yeah, absolutely, it's been interesting. We are at the halfway mark. We're going to quickly run this, and we will come back for some more questions. Oh, it's the halfway mark. Mark Strong there, everybody. So yes, that is the halfway mark, guys. If you do know of any other marks, we are running very dry on marks. So if you do know of any, please do put them in the chat. We can hopefully nab their imagery and put them as our halfway mark. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, Paul, was the way that obviously things have changed. So I do, obviously, as you know, I do speaking events, and I go to different groups, and part of this is you get a sign in. So you do a score. For those who don't know, you do a score out of 10 on a personal level, and you do the score out of 10 on a business level. Now, normally before COVID, there was a kind of a correlation where you'd see a high business score equals a high personal score. They were joined, and if you saw a low business score, you saw a low personal score. But one of the things that COVID that I've observed in the different groups that I've been going to is that, you know, business scores have been at the 4, the 3, disastrous scores that I've never seen before. But the personal score was at the 9s, at the 10s, despite the business score being kind of low. And my question is, do you think that businesses are less focused, or will be less focused on success being financially focused? Do you think there's more of a more holistic view now on success, as it's that focus on life balance? Do you think that this has kind of changed that, or do you think we revert back to where we were?
I think so many business leaders are just so happy to have the opportunity to reconnect with their families in a way that, the normal pressures of business life sort of prevent on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's why their business have been so high, and it is fantastic to see. I think the focus on the profit motive, or the profit for purpose motive, whatever is driving a particular business, I think that focus will absolutely stay. But what I really hope is that these business leaders who have experienced just how wonderful it is to really reconnect with their families will find ways to keep that going beyond the lockdown. I think that's
absolutely.
my hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, do you think it's possible? What sort of things could we do to enable that? Do you think, or help us to achieve that? Because I think I'm in the same boat. I hope it is. I hope it is something that is sustained, because the kind of the life that I'm carving out at the moment, I'm thoroughly enjoying. But it's can we keep that whilst also growing a successful business? Is it? Do you think the two things are achievable?
I think they're absolutely achievable, Luke. I think there's no reason at all. And maybe now we've seen what good looks like, maybe we'll be more focused on making it happen. Some of it is just little things, just some Ant was telling me, a few times about just having lunch with the kids, just taking the time at lunchtime when he wouldn't normally be there to be with the kids. And so I think often it's just simple little things, and we just need to create space in our lives for that. And I think we'll be richer for it. And I also really believe our businesses will be better off for it too. So I hope business leaders will lean into that challenge as they come out of lockdown.
Absolutely, yeah. And what sort of things have you been up to during lockdown? What are the the sort of habits that you formed during this time period that number one, you're enjoying, but number two, hope that you can kind of carry on into whatever the future might look like?
Yeah. So just as I've said about my members, it's been fantastic to spend life at home with my wife more. We've spent more time together. Often I'm traveling around the country and within Kent, and so just being at home has been absolutely fabulous. I've quite enjoyed sort of learning all this tech stuff and how to make it work.
Your tech has evolved significantly. I remember the first one, and you look at, you're a pro now. Look at this. It's like perfectly lit. It's fantastic, Paul. I'm impressed.
I love to do DIY, Luke, so I've had my screwdriver out and
nice.
wiring up lights in my room. It is like a studio in here.
Fantastic.
Good or bad.
You should definitely you should ask Masoodin about next time you talk to Masoodin, talk to him about his DIY efforts. He needs I think he needs some help and some moral support and possibly some motivation actually as well.
Excellent.
Oh, speaking of tech.
I've loved not being on the road, not spending hour after hour in the car has been absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
yeah.
what are sort of things that your group are kind of reporting as well? Like, so the groups that you deal with, the CEOs, MDs, what are the sorts of things that they've been doing that you think, you know what, actually that's a great idea. We should be kind of doing more of that.
Well, of course, that's one of the great advantages of a Vistage group is that these different leaders with different experiences come together and they share experiences. One of my members who was the first to work out how the furlough process actually worked, was able to talk about that and share that experience with the rest of the group. So it is the power of peers learning from each other, because nothing is ever new in business. It just may be new to you. So I've been so proud of my members and the way they've lent into this period, because whilst a lot of their employees have been quite scared and not really knowing what's going to happen, they've been the same, and yet they've really risen to the challenge. Some of the things that I might mention. Bracers, the law firm in Maidstone that I have the privilege to work with, the way they've sort of provided workshops online for their clients to help them to understand all these, the new employee implications of lockdown has been just amazing.
Yeah.
My friends at Neville's up in Dartford, literally faced with revenue going to almost zero on the first day of lockdown, and the way they've come together as a team, found new ways to do things, and I think we'll come out of the whole lockdown process stronger. So many examples like that where I think leadership in Kent can be really pleased with the way and proud of the way they've responded to this challenge.
Absolutely, yeah, and actually Joe's on the board for the Kent and Vistage Chamber. Again, some fantastic work they've been doing as part of that association with the Chamber as well, which is helping a lot of businesses get their heads around a very, very complicated kind of situation. Are there any examples as businesses? I mean, the word pivot, it's been a word that I didn't like before lockdown because I thought it was slightly overused and incorrectly used. Now I totally get it, and I think it's absolutely kind of the correct usage. Is there any examples of kind of businesses either in your group or businesses that you've come across that are that have pivoted, have almost taken a business model from one kind of sector, move it to another sector, or taken a product and moved it into a different sort of area? Is there any examples that you could kind of maybe share?
Yeah, so printing firms that have moved to creating plastic PPE using printable plastics. Distilleries moving to hand wipes. One of my members is a lighting business. They provide stage lights and the like, and they've really pivoted towards amazing smart screen technology that enables a whole different virtual experience for a webinar. So I'm seeing a number of examples of pivot, but I think fundamentally, in the long run, COVID-19 hasn't changed very much. It just maybe accelerated some of the trends that were already there in the market. So I still believe we should be focusing on our long-term vision, just having some different short-term applications.
Absolutely. Just on that one, because there's another question in chat which I'm going to come to in a second, but just on that one, what are the, like you say, it's not changed much, but what are the things other than escalating existing trends? What do you think businesses will need to do potentially more of, so in the next sort of 3 to 6 months? And obviously, like, so when we talk about search, we talk about the need for a sort of more focus around health and safety related terms, using kind of different language in the ad copy to ensure that kind of empathy and that understanding is kind of there as well. What are the things that you think, sort of more broadly speaking, that businesses are going to need to do more of in the next sort of 3 to 6 months?
I think a lot of it, Luke, is around leaning into our employees and staying really close to them. I'm seeing across a number of different firms that there are real mental health challenges, wellness challenges associated with this environment where people, don't all have lovely homes that they can work from, and maybe they're working in cramped conditions,
Yeah.
maybe they're missing their friends, and I think as leaders, we have to really continue to lean into our people and make sure that they're getting the support they need, both formal support and just informal connecting and staying in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a question from the chat: what is your favorite TED talk in recent memory? Is there any good ones that you can kind of shout out? We can kind of share in the links post the interview.
I'm a great believer in the power of positivity and the power of a positive mindset. So probably one of my favorite talks of that nature is Carol Dweck talking about mindset. That's DWECK, Carol Dweck,
Okay.
talking about the positive mindset.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I have to check that one out. I'm trying to. We were doing TED Talk Thursdays. That was our thing in the Quilter household. We were kind of trying to pick those kind of inspirational things. It's kind of just slipped off the radar a little bit. It's normally once the kids are in bed, and it's like, you know what? Actually, educational content right now. I'm not sure I can handle kind of anymore. So, in terms of for yourself, what's kind of next? What do you do now with the Vistage groups? Obviously, I was chatting to some of the guys at the speaker, the guys who handle the speakers, and they're saying that obviously at the moment it's strongly advised that we're all working kind of remotely. How do you see that kind of transitioning? Do you feel it's going to go back to those face to face? Do you think it's going to be hybrid? How do you think the Vistage sort of experience will kind of adapt and change given everything that's going on?
Yeah. As you said, I think there's no substitute for face to face in the long run, but I think we'll end up with a lot more virtual meetings and maybe virtual content. Maybe some of our speakers won't actually come into the room to meet with our groups, but they might join us via Zoom. So I think the genie's out of the bottle on this technology now, and I think it will become an ever important part of what we do. And as we become more competent with it, that will afford us some opportunities that we've never had. For instance, why couldn't you speak to a Vistage group in the States in the future, as opposed to simply the amazing Vistage community in the UK?
Yeah.
All those things I think become possible as we begin to really embrace the tech.
Absolutely. And actually, in the chat, the guys have just posted a link to that the TED talk that you mentioned there. And actually, just sort of before we kind of wrap up, what were if somebody is watching this and actually they're looking at how do they get more support? Where can they go to find out more information about sort of what you do and how you support different businesses?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. You'll find my profile, Paul Johnson, Vistage Chair in Kent, or go to the Vistage website, vistage.co.uk. And I'd love to have a chat with anybody who wants to be a better, more successful leader and lead a more balanced life.
Fantastic. And I mean, as I said, guys, Paul has been absolutely fantastic for us as a business and supporting us through some challenging times. Generally, business even without the COVIDs and the Brexits of the world, it's running a business has been challenging, and so Paul's support has been fantastic. So if you are looking for support and how to take you to the next level, definitely do check out Paul's details on LinkedIn. Paul, it's been a pleasure. I'm so impressed with your quote knowledge. I cannot believe you pulled that first one out of the bag. I thought we might stump you there, but as I said, your knowledge, vast knowledge of everything, including quotes, it seems. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Been great to be here, Luke.
Awesome.
Always a pleasure working with you.
Brilliant. Right, well, we'll catch up again, no doubt, very soon. Thanks again, Paul. Guys, that is it for the show today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, feel free to interact with the content that we have on our social channels. Obviously, there's loads of content that we're pushing out on YouTube about how to help yourself with digital marketing and various other things. If you'd like to be involved in the show, if you'd like to think you could be a good guest, if you've got some ideas to share, please do reach out, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We will be back again on Friday at 4:30 with our LinkedIn Live, our first ever LinkedIn Live broadcast as well. So that's going to be slightly scary, slightly new format to the show. Come along. It could be a train wreck, so do check that out. Hopefully it will be some great value in there as well. So thanks again for watching, and hopefully catch up with you again in the next one.